Welcome to Super Flixx, the podcast covering superhero, sci-fi, and fantasy movies. I am one of your hosts, Eugene. Plowed in with me as always, my podcast partner, Joe Hartley. What's up, man?
What's going on?
We are members of the Martial Arts InterNetwork, and you can check out our other show, Fists, Kicks, and Flicks, every Thursday on the Martial Arts InterNetwork. Joe, it's showtime. What's up, man?
What's going on? Long time no see.
That's right. So this should be fun, man. This is our first show doing Super Flixx. And actually, man, I've been planning this podcast for about 4 or 5 years now.
Oh,
And
dang.
yeah, man. And Melissa asked me about it, and I was like, "Oh, I've been working on this for a few years now." I was like, it just had to be the right timing. We wanted to make sure that Fist Kicks and Flicks got up and running the right way, and we're moving with that. That's going good. And I wanted to make sure that we did this one the right way also. And actually, I spent the last 4 or 5 years, doing Fist Kicks and Flicks, preparing for this show.
For
So
sure.
this
Yeah.
is gonna be fun, man. Um, so yeah, man. So like I said in the intro, man, I want to not just cover superhero movies, but also sci-fi movies, fantasy movies. Just so we have a wide variety of things that we could touch on. Now, not only movies, but I also want to do TV series and shows. But some of that's gonna be a little hard, Joe. Like
It's gonna be very hard.
when we get to doing like doing the stuff on Netflix is fine, and also on Max is fine because a lot of those shows there's only 10 or 13 episodes. But when you start talking about network TV, like the Arrowverse, they have a lot of filler episodes on those shows, and it's going to last like 22, 24 episodes. Like we're not going to do that.
No.
That's just going to be too much, trying to be on Arrow season 3, you know episode 18. Like we can't do that type of stuff. But what I was thinking about, we could do, they have like story arcs we can do, because they did, different type of team ups, and they had a
Yep.
story arc that covered, each series. So we probably be able to do some of that stuff. That should be pretty fun to do that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm good with that.
Okay. Any particular movie that you're interested in covering?
Well, so now that we're getting into like sci-fi and fantasy, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So
Okay. You know, I've learned about Lord of the Rings way back in the day, before the movies ever came out. We had a neighbor that stayed on our block, and he used to always talk about Gandalf and all of those characters and stuff like that. And he used to
back
make
when
them
the
out of,
books were out,
yeah, man, and he used to make them out of Legos. And I got interested in them, and I read The Hobbit. That was the first book, The Hobbit, and I read
yep.
that, and that was pretty cool. And then I tried to read Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, the first book, and man, that book was so long. And it was like, well, this chapter is going to be about the language of the elves, and I was like, let's get back to the adventure. Like, what is this? Like this, it just took too long, so I really couldn't finish. I couldn't finish those books, and even the movies. I saw Fellowship of the Ring. I never finished the other two. So, and that's
Oh
back in the day
man,
when they first came out.
the second one's the best one
Really, what was that? Was
to
that
me.
Twin
Just
Towers? Was that the Two Towers or Twin Towers or something?
yeah, like all three of them are good, but the second one has some really good battle scenes in it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's oh man. That's I've watched it. I've probably watched all those movies so many times. The Hobbit series, I watched a few times. They're not as good to me, but they're pretty good. But the Lord of the Rings, I absolutely love Lord of the Rings. And
Okay.
then for sci-fi, one of my all-time favorite, probably definitely top 5 movies, just overall, is The Fifth Element.
I've you know what I've seen that on like Netflix. Never watched the movie. I just seen I don't want to say the box, but the cover, the poster, or
Yeah.
whatever for it. But I have no idea what that movie is about. I've never really been a big sci-fi person, honestly. I've watched Star Trek, the Next Generation. That's my favorite out of all of the Trek series. I've seen that. I've seen some of Deep Space Nine, and I've seen Voyager, and that's pretty much it of the Star Trek. And every now and then, when I first moved into this house, I did not have cable here,
Okay.
and I had the regular channels like Me TV or whatever, for about a week before,
Yeah.
you know, and one of those channels had Star Trek on. So since I had nothing else to watch, I would see some. It's like every day, like it would show you the original series, then the Next Generation, and then Deep Space Nine, and it would just play like to like 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. So I would have that on, and I saw some of the older episodes that way. And I remember as a kid, my dad used to watch the older episodes, but I never really got into them. So though, but I did like those movies. I did watch those movies,
Yeah,
especially.
all the movies are pretty good actually. And the funny thing is, I never really watched the show, but I have watched most of the movies, the older and the newer.
Hmm. I did that during COVID. I
Yep.
definitely watched the old Star Trek movies during COVID, and it was pretty interesting. I mean, I didn't dislike them, so
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. But you know what I'm really interested in covering whenever we get there is the Infinity Gauntlet saga. That's going to
Yep.
be that's going to be fun when we get into doing the Marvel movies. So,
Are
but
you Marvel
mhm,
or DC preference?
let's start off with that because I was about to ask you your origin story as far as comics and stuff. So we'll start with me and we'll go there. I have always been mainly Marvel, but I've always purchased Batman comic books. Always, even as a kid, I've always purchased Batman comics. Not so
Okay.
much Superman. And I think the reason why is because Superman always seemed a little cheesy to me. And he was just indestructible. Like I never really seen Superman with any problems or issues. Like Batman
I
had
mean,
always had, Batman has some
kryptonite.
mental. Batman has some. Yeah, I get the kryptonite, but if somebody doesn't have kryptonite, then I didn't think that Superman was ever going to get beat up. You know,
Yep.
but I'm gonna get into that a little bit deeper in a minute. Um, I did. I mean, there were some Superman comic books I had as a kid. Like I had Superman versus Muhammad Ali. I found that at a comic book show.
I didn't
I
know that
bought
was a
that.
thing.
Yeah, man.
Didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. Superman, and it wasn't a normal size comic either. This comic book was huge. It was about this big.
Dang.
Um, and then I also had a Spider-Man versus Superman comic. I had those. I had the Death of Superman and the Return of Superman, all of those. And even when they did the replacement Superman, because they had Superboy, then they had Steel, then it was an android, and then it was an alien, all who came back after Superman died and wanted to take over for him. And I had those comic books for a little while. But as a kid, man, I was mainly Marvel, Marvel all day, man. Spider-Man, the X-Men, those were my favorite. And then my uncle, my dad and my uncle both got me and Trav into comic books because they were collectors also as kids. So they just kind of
Yep.
passed that down to us. And I used to at my grandmother's house, my uncle used to keep all his old comic books. So I used to go up to the attic and look at all his old comics from the 60s and 70s or whatever, and then keep some of them and then read them. He didn't
Heck yeah.
care. And then he would take after karate on Saturdays, he would take us to the comic book store and we would buy comic books and he would read his comics and he would give them to us after he was done with them. But I never really read the comics that he would give us. He would give me a lot of Avenger comic books and I would have them and they were cool, but I would just draw the pictures. I would read them, but I Avengers really wasn't my thing back then. I was
Hmm.
mainly Spider-Man and X-Men and all the different variations of X-Men teams, X-Force, X-Factor, all of it. So I was all into all of that. What about you?
X-Men all day.
Okay, so
Marvel all day
you're
too.
Marvel
Like,
all day.
yeah, I was cool with Batman. I was cool with Superman. I never really read the comics too much, but I knew enough about it. But once I got into X-Men, like that's all I really read.
Man, and also as a kid, man, those Superman comics, I mean not comics, Superman cartoon shows that the challenge of the Super Friends and the Super Friends and all of those were
Yeah.
so cheesy. Those cartoons were so cheesy, man. And Superman just he just kind of just seemed really stiff. He didn't seem like a cool character to me. He would just fly around and punch things. Nothing could really hurt him unless you had the kryptonite, and that was it. And he never really seemed like he had much depth to him after that. So Batman was always a little bit more intriguing to me. Even though he was in those cartoons also, but I don't know, man. I just really Batman was just a human who just had cool, cool gadgets and vehicles and things like that. So I guess I just, gravitated to him a little bit more.
I think like for sure, like I said, when it was just comics, it was always for me. It was whatever X-Men comic I can find, get a hold of to read. Some Spider-Man, but mostly X-Men. But then, when I got older, it evolved into video games.
Hmm.
Then I started learning more through video games about all the other comics and characters: Iron Man, the Avengers, Captain America, then Batman, Superman. I even got as deep as like Moon Knight. I
Oh
remember
wow.
like finding Moon Knight and thinking like, dude. Then I started looking like, okay, I think every Marvel character has a DC character slash DC comes up with a character for that can mirror Marvel. Because to me, Moon Knight was like their version of Batman.
Yes. And it's
Only
actually it's actually Marvel's that copied DC.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was you can go back and forth, and I started trying to go down that rabbit hole, but that just can be annoying. So but for the most part, yeah, man, like I get into all that stuff, like fantasy, sci-fi, huge Star Wars fan. I would like to see Star Wars evolve a little bit more. I feel like the last group of movies that came out, like I didn't mind them,
Hmm.
but I feel like they recycled the same exact idea as the originals. They just gave us new characters.
Man, that is going to be when we get into Star Wars. That's definitely going to be an interesting topic, and also it's going to be debatable. Because you have people that either love Star Wars and love all of it, or you have some people that only like the old stuff, and then you have people that only love, some that like the new stuff that don't have the same type of nostalgia for the old stuff. I
Man,
remember. Go ahead.
when you give me force fighting and lightsabers, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, me too.
That's all there is to
That's
it. That's all there is to it.
it.
I don't care
Yeah,
if it's trash. I'm gonna watch it.
yeah, and I'm still, what, man? Because I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but back in the early 2000s, right when Revenge of the Sith was about to come out, remember people did not like those movies at first.
Yeah, I know.
And now this the crazy part is that I remember when Phantom Menace came out, people did like Phantom Menace. It was over time when that hate started coming around, right? And I remember um Avery, he was a little kid, he was all into Star Wars, and I had the box set of the original VHS, oh no, it was DVDs of the first trilogy. He had never seen
Yeah,
those.
I
So I
got it
gave
too.
so I gave it to him and let him watch them. And he came back and he was like, okay, they're cool. They're all right. But he still liked the newer ones better because the newer ones seemed a little bit more fresh at that time than the older ones. Because the older ones, I mean, there was puppets. It wasn't too much CGI in them. You
Yeah,
know, um, I mean, Empire Strikes Back was the best one to me out of the original ones. You
I agree.
know, so I started seeing that the younger people at that time, they didn't mind. They didn't think the sequel movies were trash. It was people in our generation that were calling those movies trash. And even now, the newer movies that came out now, episode 7, 8, and 9, I don't think the younger people dislike those movies. It's constantly the older generation that doesn't like the newer stuff. Not me though. I enjoyed it all the same.
Yeah, I didn't mind them at all, but I know a lot of people complain, especially the second one. The second one had a lot of plot that was
Hmm.
building up,
You talking
but
about
it
Last
still
Jedi?
had some. Yeah, that still had
Yeah.
no, the was it the yeah, The Last Jedi. It still had some good points into it. And I mean, you got to see Leia doing some training. I
Hmm.
mean, that to me, there's a whole story right there
Was
of
that in the
Leia
second one?
becoming
I
the
think that was
Jedi.
in the last. I think that was in the last one. Wasn't it? Or was it?
Was
I
it the
can't
last
remember.
one? You're
Oh, you
probably
mean
right.
her? Wait. You mean her actually doing the training herself, not
They were
training
doing
Ray?
a flashback. Yeah, they were doing a
Yeah. I
flashback
think you're
and
right.
showing
I
her
think you. Yeah, I
her
think you're right.
training. And I
Yeah,
just
and I
thought,
think
to
in the
me,
last one she was. No,
that
go
was
ahead.
something we always, as a Star Wars fan, you kind of wanted to see, because if you go back and look at the books, Leia does actually become a full-fledged Jedi just like her brother.
Okay. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just thought it
I
was
didn't.
interesting.
I didn't. I didn't. I definitely didn't mind it. Like even the acolyte, man. Acolyte has gotten so much hate. I did
I
not
didn't mind the
mind that.
Acolyte. I
I
wanted a
did.
second season.
Yeah. I don't understand what's the problem. Like I don't. I don't know, man. I know a lot of people don't like Kathleen Kennedy, whatever, and I don't know. Maybe it's because they feel like she's forcing, women as the lead. I don't know what the issue is. I don't see. You can't sit up and tell me you like Return of the Jedi, you enjoyed the Ewoks, but you didn't like the Acolyte, or you didn't like Jar Jar Binks, but you like the Ewoks. I'm not buying it. Like you just want something to complain about, in my opinion.
But Jar Jar Binks is just C-3PO in as a fish. I mean, that, honest to God. So, what, you hate 3PO too? That's all I'm saying. Like, he's annoying, but he's essential. There's always some weird, annoying character.
3PO, I did not like 3PO in what was the second movie? The Attack of the Clones. I didn't like they
Yeah.
had 3PO talking a little too much in that movie.
Well,
He was
he,
talking a little
you
too
know,
much for my taste.
he was just getting a grasp of what was out there, because he had been stuck in the desert for so long with when being
Yeah.
built.
Yeah.
So he was trying to, he was
I
exploring a
guess.
whole new world, but then he had to learn later on in life that if you keep his mouth shut, he will get in less trouble, or stop hanging out with R2D2.
That's funny, man. That's funny. All right. Let's talk about Superman. Superman 78. So you said that before we start recording, you said that you were surprised that this movie kind of held up a little bit, huh?
Yeah, it's been a while since I actually watched this movie, and so I kind of didn't know what to expect. And I mean, it wasn't super cheesy. It wasn't real, like, for the time, 1978. I wasn't even a thought yet. So
I
to
was two.
me, I didn't know what
Well, I
I
was
was
turning two.
expecting. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I didn't know
Mhm.
what I was expecting, but it was pretty good. They had good casting. Even though he was on a string wire, like, could barely tell compared to now. Like, obviously we do it a lot different, but the flying was good. They gave him a bunch of fun one-liners, which, that's what TV was all about in the 80s. So,
Mhm.
you want all these one-liners you can go to school and repeat, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and
That's what that
Sly and all that.
yeah.
So,
This movie definitely had a lot of that. And it seemed like that was all of the dialogue. But at the
and
same time,
I forgot Gene Hackman was Lex Luthor.
oh, I did not forget that. But it was kind of
Oh
cool
my
that they put
god.
they put that the memorial at the beginning of
Yeah, I saw
the movie
that. I
now.
saw that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool that they
But
respect
I totally forgot, and I was like, "Wow, Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. That's crazy."
I got some criticism of that though. I got some
You
criticism
should.
of that. So
You should.
we'll get to that in a minute
You
because
should.
yeah, man, that was I think if it was done now, that movie would be done a little bit differently. Actually, I think it'll be done a lot differently if you do that movie now.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't mean like the Man of Steel and Superman 78 is not the same movie at all. Even though it's the same
Yeah.
idea. It's I mean, if you take Superman 78 and you do that exact movie now and just make small changes for 2025, um, those two will still be a little bit different. But I think the writing. See, this is my thing. I think people back then they wrote that movie, even though it's for everyone. I think they wrote it mainly for kids because it had a very very simple. It had very very simple writing, and now
Yes.
movies are more complex in the scripting and the dialogue. It's way more complex now compared to back then. And this is the
Sometimes too
first.
complex.
Yeah, and this is the first superhero movie. I don't. I mean, maybe Batman, that Batman movie that came out might have been considered the first movie. I'm not sure if it was in the theater or not. I really
You know what?
I wasn't around for that one.
You know what killed me about this movie? So Gene Hackman could have done just fine as Lex Luthor.
Hmm.
The problem is, I feel like the whole movie didn't do this, but just the Lex Luthor and his cronies
Hmm.
gave me Batman TV vibes, Adam West
Yes,
Batman TV vibes.
yes,
You know what
and
I'm saying?
that's
And
what I'm getting at with the writing. Like,
yeah,
I don't think they won't write. They would not write a Superman movie like they wrote this movie now
yeah.
in this time.
But if they were gonna do that, why wasn't the whole movie like that? Because the rest of the movie flowed just fine. But every time we were with Lex Luthor in his underground lair with his two henchmen and henchwoman, it just felt like I was watching Adam
Yeah,
West.
yeah.
And I'm
But
like, and it was
I don't think you,
crazy to me.
I don't think you really could do that because there were no other characters you could have did that with. In like you're not gonna have well, Clark was actually a little goofy acting.
Yeah, but I think it was to take off the fact that he was a superhero. Plus, he was a goody good raised by, a couple of
Yeah,
farmers.
yeah, but he was almost acting a little bit stalkish towards
Yeah,
Lois Lane.
true. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah, he got attached a little too quick. Like, it seemed like this movie was only a week from the time where he gets hired and meets Lois Lane to, you know, everything that happened at the end with Lex. It seemed like it wasn't that long, and I was like, man, he's pretty attached to her pretty quickly. They just met.
I did like so the movie starts off on Krypton, and we
Mm,
got Jor-El, and he's got some prisoners, including General Zod, who will
mhm.
come. I think is he in the second or the third
Yeah,
movie?
the second movie.
Okay, so General Zod and a couple of his accomplices are on trial, and they got a whole tribunal. The floating heads in the air, and then Jor-El as basically deciding the fate of these criminals. And you know, uh, overall, everybody says guilty, and then it comes down to Jor-El and General Zod. Well, he's not General Zod at this point; he's just Zod. But he kind of basically tells Jor-El like, I don't care if it takes me, thousands of years. I'm gonna come after you, and I'm gonna come after your family. What do you say?
Hmm.
Your
Yeah.
heirs, basically, your sons, how many ever you have. And
You,
he's whooshed off to the Phantom Zone. Now, I only know that because of the comics, but if you didn't know that, you would have just been like, where did they go?
yeah. But you know what was weird? I wonder when they made the first Superman movie, were they planning to do a second movie? Because this is, foreshadowing the second movie.
Yeah.
And at that time back in the day, you didn't know you were going to make another movie. So that was pretty I like that aspect that they were foreshadowing and showing us. I didn't really appreciate that as a kid. I appreciate it
Yeah.
more now as an adult because I've seen the second movie and I know what's going to happen in the second movie. And the second
I
movie to me is better than this first movie.
yeah. I think the person doing this, I think they got a good team that was obviously a fan because
Hmm.
they did their best to kind of stay, pretty close to the story.
Hmm.
So I'm sure that they were thinking ahead, like if this is successful, which it should be. I mean, comic book movies should be somewhat successful because it's a one of those imaginative ideas. So um, the crazy thing is, so we go from the trial to the Phantom Zone, and then we go into the destruction of Krypton.
Man, hold on for 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
It looked like they got trapped in a mirror or glass, right?
Yeah.
That would have been uncomfortable. And just
Oh, of course.
spin around forever just through space. Like that had to been like a nightmare.
Now, so But isn't the Phantom Zone isn't just that tiny little? I think it's like its own dimension, more or less. Just it floats around space.
I don't know. I read. Like I said, I didn't
I've
really get into Superman comics,
uh,
so
yeah, so I've
I
never read
have no
it, but
idea.
I've seen several different shows and a couple of different movies, and they
Hmm.
all kind of treat it like a dimension, but it's just there's a way out, but the way out is almost impossible to find.
Hmm. Well, that
But it's
makes
like its
what
own
happens in the
dimension.
second movie pretty stupid. Then
Yeah,
how they get out? That I mean, because that's anyway.
like I said, I think it ends up they have to. Sometimes movies can't overcomplicate things, and sometimes they overcomplicate it too much. So
Yeah,
in
yeah.
this essence, I think they just wanted to keep it simple. So Jarrell, from the comic book, Jarrell is actually a scientist, which is why I'm not sure why he was kind of playing lawyer at the beginning. I
Well,
felt that was kind of interesting. Yeah, Jarrell's supposed to be a scientist. That's why like he's really good with all those crystals
you know what, man?
on Krypton.
You you are 100% right. But you know
Yeah.
what? At the same time, one thing I've learned, especially recently about Marvel and DC, is they lean into this multiverse thing, right?
Yeah.
And everybody is doing something a little bit different in the multiverse. Like even in Superman, some universes, Ma and Pa Kent are still alive. Like they don't die. You know,
Yep.
they're there the whole time. I've seen one Superman where the mom dies and the dad is alive. And I think that might have been one of the animated movies. The dad was still alive, and the mom had passed.
Yeah. A
So
lot of those when they do the multiverse, like they like to play devil's advocate and see how that affects the superhero.
because they did that with Batman also, because sometimes Batman's father is like he has Wayne Enterprises, but there was one where he was like a doctor or something. One of these Batman movies where his dad was a doctor. You know, who knows, man?
Yeah, they like I said, they like to tamper and see what they can change with some of that.
Hmm.
So my understanding is Jarrell is a scientist, and he actually predicts the destruction of Krypton, but nobody listens to him.
Now that's stupid
I agree.
because, because all you got to do. Krypton looks cold too, doesn't it? It looks like
Yes.
a cold ass planet. But you can, if you go outside and look in the sky, you see something coming toward your planet.
Well, so he predicted this before it happened, which is why he was prepared to send his son off.
Hmm.
But nobody listened to him. He was trying to evacuate the whole planet. He was trying to
Hmm.
find somewhere else they could all live and evacuate the whole planet.
Hmm.
But nobody listened to him. So instead, his next plan was to build a ship and send his son away before the destruction. Now, I'll tell you what now. I've heard and read many other stories about the destruction of Krypton. How many people actually did escape. Some people, they do end up eventually escaping and getting
Hmm.
to another world, but there's so many, like you said, there's so many versions of that. So where there's a version where apparently his parents did get away and started a whole new life and not wherever. Eventually, he finds them and all this other stuff. But
Did you ever watch the show Krypton?
yeah,
You saw the whole thing, the whole all seasons? I think it was like two or three, right?
yeah, I saw the whole thing.
Did you like it? I think I saw most of the first season. And I didn't finish. I think I was watching it on TV, and man, watching these shows on TV is just horrible, man. Because they take those breaks. You never know when stuff is coming back on, and
Or if
I
it's
just
coming
could,
back,
yeah, or if it's coming back. So I kind of felt I never got a chance to finish watching that, and I never even started watching Alfred's show. Also, he had a show also.
oh, I never did get to Alfred's show. I forgot about his show.
Yeah, I never
Oh,
did
actually,
that.
I wanted to
But
see that one.
also, like you said, man, there are some variations where there are some people who get shrunk down from Krypton and they are in some type of case.
Yeah,
And he has them, and I think they're in the Fortress of Solitude or something. I think. Don't kill me if you guys are Superman fans and you know the real story. Just put it in the comments or email us or something like that, and maybe we'll read their comments on the next show if we get any.
Yeah, hey, I'm always open for the ideas and where to find them and stuff like that. So yeah, so basically his idea, he's created a craft that he also sends the Fortress of Solitude in that craft in a way to know the history of his people all within that craft. And he purposely sends him to Earth. And he says even though they're a little bit more primitive than we are and they're behind, like they have the potential to be good people. So the idea is to send his son Kal-El as a symbol to make things better for Earth. And he
Now,
already knows that he's going to have powers when he gets to Earth from the
I
yellow
wonder,
sun.
yeah, I wonder how he knew anything about Earth in the first
Yeah, I
place.
was wondering that too.
I mean, because Krypton had to have been, well, many, many light years away. I can't even tell you. I mean, like I said, I don't study Superman. I don't
Yeah,
know
he
how many
sent
light
him as
years.
a baby, and what was he
Yes.
like, 5 or 6 years old when he
No,
finally made it to Earth?
no, he was 3 because they say it later on. Lex Luthor says it later on in the movie,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, you're right.
Now, early in the movie, when we kind of hear Jor-El talking, and he says, I think he might have said, by the time you get these messages, we would have been dead for thousands of years. But that's not what Lex Luthor says later on in the movie. Because he kind of figures out when he landed on Earth and when Krypton blew up. Because he finds the fragment that he gets the kryptonite. We'll talk about that
Yeah,
later. But I was like, well, that doesn't make sense because Jor-El said that it'll be thousands of years. He like if you're that far away from Earth, he should have seen like cavemen or Neanderthals at Earth
oh
at
yeah,
that point in time. If you're that far away from Earth, you know,
true.
from space time. But go ahead,
Well,
man.
so maybe not in this story, but if you if you read up about Supergirl,
Hmm.
Supergirl was supposed to be sent early to protect Kal-El,
Right. Hmm.
and then said she got knocked off course.
Right.
So I wonder if he got knocked off course too.
No. Yeah, because that's why she didn't age. She stayed the
Oh,
same
okay.
age that whole time. She stayed 15 or 16 years old.
Yeah.
And he grew up in his time,
Yeah, she
well,
should have been
not
older
big,
than
but
him. Yeah,
yes,
she should have been older. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I do remember something like that. So he's in this pod that was made specifically for him, and he's hearing his dad tell him all these lessons as he's getting a little bit bigger before he makes it to Earth. And then we see him come into contact with Earth. And then when he does crash, he crashes in the field right before the Kents make it to their house. So they run off the road, they get a flat tire, and right away Martha looks and says, she says it's a gift because
yeah.
they've been wanting children. Which, by the way, she's talking about children. She don't look like she's
I was about to bring this up.
of childbearing age.
I was about to bring this up. Why do why so 50 or 60 years old? They look old as hell.
I know. I was thinking the same thing.
At least Bruce Wayne's parents looks, at least in their 40s, you know.
Right?
But every time we see Ma and Pa Kent, they are old as hell. Like, come on now.
Yeah, she's talking about like we wanted some kids, but I'm like, okay, those. She's like, oh, my prayers have been answered. Well, how long ago did you pray?
Pa was too tired, man, after working in the field. I didn't see no field hands. on their farm. It seemed like it was just him. You
I
know,
know, right?
he worked himself to death, man.
But the funny thing is, so she's getting all excited. She's like, her idea is to say, "Oh, it's my nephew or something's kid from North Dakota or whatever." But her husband's all like, "No, don't be getting on. We're gonna have to find this kid's parents." And she's looking at the spaceship like, his parents, bro. Where? Look up. His parents are somewhere up there if they're even alive.
Those are some brave people, also. Because if Melissa would have, seen a little kid and it's coming out of a spaceship, I'm like, don't touch that thing. You don't know, you don't know where that thing's been. You don't know what it's going to do to you. Like, don't touch it with your hands.
It's so funny because the jack on the truck, he's the dad, he's trying to fix the tire, and it comes out from under, and then all of a sudden the truck it's not moving, and you look over and there's Clark or Kal-El at this point holding up the truck. So they're looking at him like, oh crap, what the hell?
Exactly. I would have fixed that truck and got the hell out of there. That kid would have been out there by himself. Look, you can't punish him.
Waiting for Area 51 to show up.
Man, you can't punish this kid. You can't spank him, and spanking was legal back in these times. You can't spank this kid. It's not going to hurt him. You don't know like what's in his head. Did you ever see oh man, I hate to change the subject real quick, but did you ever see that other movie, which is pretty much Superman, but what if Superman was evil? It was like a little boy.
Yeah.
You saw that movie? You remember the name of it?
Damien.
No, was it Damien? I thought it was something else.
Oh well, I know what you're talking about.
This came out recently. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's like, what if Superman was bad? But it was the same kind of story. A family finds this little kid, and he eventually, wrecks hell on Earth. But go ahead, continue.
So they go from that to now. He's Clark now, not Kal-El. He's Clark Kent, and he's in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he's like, basically it looks like he's the water boy for the football team.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets asked to go hang out with what is it?
With Lana.
Is it
Lana Lang?
Yeah, Lana Lang. Who I can't stand that character, because if you watch Smallville, she was the worst character on that show. Oh my god.
Really?
Oh my god.
I never saw Smallville.
Yeah, Smallville was pretty good. As far as the CW stuff goes,
mm-hmm.
They did a pretty good job with that. Yeah, so he gets invited, but then one of the bullies, or whatever you want to call him, football guy, tells him, "No, man, you got all this work." So of course he kicks a football probably up into space, and then cleans up, and he runs home next to a train.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of people looking at this dude. You don't think they know who you are? This looks like a small town. You don't think they're gonna be like, oh, there goes the Kent boy again, running by the train?
I don't think they will make this part for a movie nowadays, man, because I think they will be too worried about children jumping in front of a train, trying to get it, get to beat it. Because that's what he does.
Okay, but I know he does that, but his whole idea is he's trying to beat the car of people that are driving by just to show off.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second they drove by him, they were like, "How'd you get here so fast?" He goes, "He just told him I ran."
Mm-hmm.
And they just looked at him like, "What a weirdo." Because I would too. Yes. You are a weirdo.
What did he expect? What did he think they were going to say? Did he think they were going to question him as to how he did it?
That's what I said. I was like,
they just said okay and just drove off, and he was standing there looking salty, like, what'd you expect?
I mean, he did have a conversation with his dad, like, I could score every time I get the ball with but I can't do that because it's not right.
What would you have said to your son?
So
in 2025.
Listen, man, if my son was Superman, I'd tell him, go out there, just don't hurt nobody.
Exactly. That's what I'm doing too. Man, you're going to get you $150 million contract. Just play
Yeah.
to the, don't try and kill anybody. Just just play good enough to beat all of the records,
If
get all
if
the
I rem
endorsements,
um I
everything.
think I think Smallville did have Clark playing football, and he
Okay.
just uh he would hold back.
Mm-hmm.
But then the problem is if somebody pissed him off, sometimes I mean like he did hurt someone one time, and then he ended up quitting. And there was
Okay.
another I think there was another version where I seen where he would take like a tiny piece of kryptonite, so it would just weaken him enough
Mm.
to be on everybody else's level.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's that good writing that we wouldn't have gotten back in '78 to think like
Yeah,
that. That's what I mean. I like that
yeah,
idea. I never saw that, but man, I wish I could have. Maybe one day we might cover some episodes of Smallville.
yeah. There were it was one of my he was a good Clark Kent because he played Clark Kent pretty much the whole show until the last season. They finally put him in the Superman suit in the last season. But so yeah, so and then this is how you know this is the 70s because literally him and his dad are talking, then all of a sudden his dad grabs his arm and is like, "Oh no!" And then he just he just dies.
Yes,
It's,
yes,
it's just it was just really random. Is I'm
yeah. I
like
was like,
it was
he he didn't try and breathe life back into his dad. He didn't try and give him CPR.
nobody even went near him really. I mean, for a second they just left
No,
him there, but
no. Well, mom was over there. What wasn't she like? Knitting a quilt or something. I don't
yeah.
know. She was on the porch doing something on the porch. And he was in the
So I
barn.
mean, they don't really let you know he died until there's like a funeral and everything. All of a sudden, but I mean, you pretty much when you grab your arm, like you know it's a heart attack. And he
Yeah,
did mention when Clark had first landed on Earth, Martha mentioned something about his heart. So I guess he did have heart problems. Now, Clark's reaction to his dad dying was kind of weird because he did the whole funeral and all that. But then he looked at his mom and said, "You know, I got to leave."
yes. Who's working the farm?
What?
Who's
But
working the
I'm just
farm
saying,
now?
like, your mom needs you, man. And you're
Right,
like, "Mom, I gotta leave. I gotta go find out who I am."
right.
I mean, he didn't say that, but that's basically what he did.
Yeah,
Because
he found
that's what he did afterwards.
he found the spaceship and he found that crystal in the
Yeah.
spaceship. And I don't know. See, he goes. I'm assuming to the North Pole or Antarctica somewhere. He goes, and he throw. How did he know to do any of that? That's my problem with writing of back then of the '70s. Like they don't explain like why he did that and how he knew to go do that. He just
Yeah.
did it without any
A
explanation.
map, a map or something should have shown up that only he could see, or his dad should have been talking to him and
Yes,
explaining to him something. I mean, that could have been simple to
exactly,
explain.
exactly.
He just did it.
Yeah, he just did it, and people were okay with that back then because I never seen anybody complain about that.
You know, I mean, for the like I said, for 78, you probably were just like, okay, whatever.
Oh, it's cool. It's a
At least
Superman movie. This is the first time we see
at
a
least he
Superman on film.
found at least he found the Fortress of Solitude. So,
Right.
man, I'm curious now. I'm gonna do some research because I want to know if Jarrell was traveling back and forth to Earth.
What makes you say that?
Well, how else did he make this fortress? Or was this just the technology there was so good, like that crystal just held the
Oh,
fortress in it?
oh, that's what I thought. Yeah, I thought that the fortress. I thought the crystal made the fortress. I thought that was just some alien technology. Once he
Okay, but
threw it,
then
it just
why couldn't he just throw it anywhere and make the fortress? Why did it have to go all the way to the North Pole?
you're gonna have paparazzi coming by, a Superman home, all types of shit. He wanted to put it. It's the fortune of solitude. He wanted to be by himself. He didn't want anybody stopping by, checking him out, coming by when he's not
Gee,
home.
dude, all I'm thinking about now is Superman chilling in the Fortress of Solitude, talking to his dad, and paparazzi, the second he walks out, just, Mr. Superman, Mr. Superman, can we get a pin of Mr. Superman?
Hey,
What did your dad have to say today, Mr. Superman?
I don't know about you, man, but I didn't see any doors on the Fortune of Solitude. It looks like we can just walk in, and I think we see that later on in the second movie.
Oh my God, that's funny. There's got to be a reason.
Yeah, yeah, but
So yeah,
I just assume it's alien technology that was in the crystal that helped create the Fortune of Solitude. That's how I always took it as a kid. Because I don't. Do we ever see the green? I don't remember if we ever see that green crystal again later. I can't remember, but I don't know.
so like you said, he throws the green crystal. We get the Fortress of Solitude, and this is a place where he gets to learn about Krypton. He can talk to his dad. I mean, literally, his dad is a floating head, like a projection almost,
Yeah,
and he literally can ask him pretty much any question, and it gets answered. But it's not like it's actually his dad. It's just, I guess, his dad must have figured out. It's almost like AI.
yes, that's exactly what it was. That's 100%
mean,
before
so I
AI.
guess they were
Before they
kind
know
of,
what AI is.
yeah, so, and then I know the crystals all have their own living thing. They actually talk a lot about that in the show Krypton.
They actually did that in. I think they did that in the Man of Steel movies.
Oh yeah, they did do
They
that too.
they
Yeah.
just put the crystal. He just put the crystal in a machine or something, and it just gives some information, whatever he needs to know.
Well, there's sequences for the crystal, and I mean, they were the life force basically of Krypton. So it's interesting. So like I said, for 1978, there's I mean, I'm sure it's just a simple projection and everything, but
Hmm.
the ideas that they were coming up with and some of the stuff they had to tackle, pretty good for its time. So he's learning about Krypton, like I
How
said,
long
from the
did they
Fortress of
say?
Solitude.
Did they say how long he was away? How long he was gone? Because he
No.
gets a bunch of information, and then next thing we know, he just turns into Superman. He has an
You know
outfit
what?
and everything.
I thought 12. I thought they said 12 years.
You know what? You're right. They did say that.
I don't know
So
why
he
that
probably
stuck out
came.
of my mind.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they did say that. So he came back. He had to, when he left, he had to have been like 18 or 19. I'm assuming he was done with high school and he came back. So 12 years later, he's probably 30 at this point in time, somewhere around there. I think
Well,
Lois.
in the interview with Lois, though, he said more than 21.
Yeah, yeah. So he had to have been about 30. I'm thinking, especially when you say that 12. Yeah, you're right. They did say 12 years. He was away for 12 years. So he didn't see his mom. Did he call home? Did he write a letter?
I don't know, man. It's pretty weird because I mean, really, he doesn't really see his mom the rest of the movie.
He really doesn't.
I
Deadbeat
mean, pretty
son.
much the rest of the movie, he's fighting Lex. He's fighting Lex Luthor, and
Yeah.
he's chasing Lois.
Yeah, and he's just doing random things to show that he's a a superhero. Like he's taking a cat out of a tree. He's saving Lois whenever stuff happens to her. If a bus is about to fall off a bridge, he's catching the bus and bringing it back up. So it's almost. I was watching. I was thinking about you. I was like, I wonder if Joe considered this a montage because they had the music
Well,
playing and he was just doing
yeah,
something. Like, he wasn't working out, but he was just. We would see a
true.
tragedy happening, and then he would show up and save people.
Well, it was so his first time. The first time we see Superman in action, and then all of a sudden, like you said, yeah, it's kind of is a montage because he kind of went from place to place. All of a sudden, he rescues a helicopter with Lois, and then he's stopping a guy crawling up a building. He stops
Yeah,
a bank robber.
yeah,
He, like you said, gets a cat. He just all these random things all of a sudden, and then the newspapers are trying to figure out who he is
yeah.
and
They
what he's
won't.
doing.
They won't write a movie like that nowadays. Like you
No,
would get booed if you did if you did
you would
that.
give
You're not going to get too many good rotten tomatoes.
nope. So it's his first day at the Daily Planet, and it's kind of funny because I guess he gives Perry White gives Clark, Lois is beat, and she's
Mhm.
like, she's kind of mad about it,
Mhm.
which makes sense because this dude just popped up. But
Mhm.
Perry White's reasoning for that is that he could type
It's like
faster than
that.
anyone I've ever seen. Well, of course he can. Dude's an alien.
Right.
I just thought that was funny. But then, like you said, he's following her around like a lost puppy dog.
Yeah, but and nobody else. I'm like, why is like he's not following around nobody. He just got his eyes stuck on her, and he's just following her around. He was just
Now, see
infatuated with
that,
Lois.
but I think it could have been because he was a fan of hers and he wanted to emulate her as a writer. But he never says anything like that. He
Yeah,
never
yeah,
mentions knowing who she is. He's
yeah,
just like, oh
exactly.
yeah, Lois Lane, sure, why not?
Once again,
I
that would
think
be
that's
something
yeah,
that would be in
yeah.
that if they wrote the movie now, they would have added that to it and would have made it make more sense.
And this part's crazy because this part they end up getting robbed or mugged, whatever you want to call it. And he
Yeah.
starts trying to talk to the guy, but he's keeping Lois behind him.
Hmm.
And he's even telling Lois, okay, just give him your purse. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but you should at least try to man up and say something. She ends up dropping her purse and kicking this dude. And then of course he has to catch a bullet when her back is turned.
Hmm.
But then he falls down like he got shot. And then when she realizes he didn't get shot, he goes, oh, I must have fainted.
Yes. Now let me derail the movie the podcast for a little bit. This is one thing that was always interesting to me in the DC world. All of the DC characters have an alter ego. You know, they have Superman, you have Clark Kent, you got Batman, you have Bruce Wayne, you have Hal Jordan, got the Green Lantern, and you don't know who these superheroes are. You don't know their real identities. That's not the case in Marvel. The only people that really have identities are Daredevil and Spider-Man. Everybody else, you know who Captain America is. You know Steve Rogers, and it's not a big
Yep.
deal. They don't worry about their family or their livelihood or anything like that. You know,
True.
Punisher walks around with no
Well,
mask. Sometimes Wolverine has a mask. Sometimes he
Steve
doesn't.
Rogers doesn't really have a family.
No, but what if he wanted to have one? you, you know, the X-Men, you know, Jean and Scott, they're not really worried about anybody messing with their family. It's like you could come if you
Well,
want to. You come bother us if you
but
want to.
the whole world is messing with their family, so
They are, but I'm not. But I'm talking about. I'm talking about like what is Spider-Man worried about? That's what I would have been like if I if I'm Iron Man. I'm like, take that damn mask off. Like the rest of us are walking around free and not worried about the family. You know, take your mask off, buddy. And could that work in DC? Probably not for Batman. Probably not for Batman because he has too many kids. But they're superheroes also. You know,
yep.
I don't know. Maybe you know what? It would work. It would not work well for Batman because Bruce Wayne is a multi-billionaire, and his ass will probably get sued all the time for the stuff
Oh
he
hell
does in
yeah.
Gotham.
Hell yeah.
So
That
yeah,
is true. That's 100% true.
he would get sued all of the
Man,
time.
I never even thought about that. That's his real reasoning. That's his real reasoning.
Go ahead, man. Keep on going. And same with Superman too, because he just be crashing through buildings and things. Can you imagine the insurance? He'll get so many insurance bills all of the time.
Right? So what is this? Is this our first time getting introduced to Lex Luthor? Yes.
Hmm.
So Lex Luthor lives like underneath the subway.
Don't
And his
understand that.
he explains it. Basically, he says anybody can live in one of those fancy whatchamacallits in Metropolis, but he's like,
High rise apartments,
yeah,
condos.
he's like, but how much do you think people would pay to live underground in my blah 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 blah? I mean, he's bullshitting is what he's doing, but
Yeah, but this is the part that I don't understand. It's like Lex Luthor is a scientist. He has Lex Corp. Why is he living in the sewer like a Ninja Turtle?
well, it's
And who
true.
built that shit? Who he didn't build that shit. He had to
Who
have
knows?
workers to do all
He
of that,
had
man.
people paying for it, but it sounded like he was already had people after him.
Yeah, this seems like this almost this does not seem like the Lex Luthor that we eventually know who's the super scientist who has LexCorp. That's not this Lex Luthor at this point. This
They
almost seems
made
like a
this.
prequel to Lex Luthor.
Gave us like he was supposed to be like an evil genius, but he was just he never told you how he figured stuff out. He just said, "Oh yeah, I figured it out."
Yeah, and I didn't like that he kept on considering himself a criminal mastermind, the greatest criminal. Like a criminal is not going to call themselves a criminal. They're not going to
No,
admit that they're bad guys at all.
no, man.
So he shouldn't be calling themselves a criminal. Go ahead, man.
No, I agree. But like I said, this to me, this whole thing was just it was off putting. I guess is the best way to put it.
But him living
Because it just
underground with Miss Tessmacher and Otis.
yeah, they were just it was odd. Like I said,
Yeah,
I was expecting our calculated, bald headed, normal, gotta kill Superman kind of Lex Luthor, not this weird kind of intellectual know it all.
I like how he had a plan as to something that he wanted to accomplish. He like you said, he wanted real estate.
Yeah.
But not just down underground. He also wanted real estate upstairs. Um, and he's going to blow
Yeah,
up
but
California.
he was trying to blow up all of California.
Yeah, but I like the fact that he realized, like, hey, I know if I attempt to do this, Superman is going to stop whatever I'm trying to do. Let me take him out first, and then I will go forward with my plan. Now, I like that part of the writing. I like that a lot.
No, that was
That was
smart,
smart.
really.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Now, does media always get to deal with and talk to the president when they're in town? I thought that was kind of weird that Air Force
Yeah,
One was only talking to Daily Planet.
yeah. I would think that. I mean, unless he had just I don't know, man. I mean, I would assume that a person will. I mean, we see, a president on Fox News or CNN
Yeah, but
talking to
usually if the
somebody.
president's in town, like they're gonna
It's
see
gonna be a lot of
they're
people.
gonna have a they're gonna have a press conference, not
Yes,
just say, "Hey, I just want to talk to the Daily Planet."
or that person would have been on the plane with them. But
Yeah.
press are already on the plane with the president anyway. They travel. There's press people that follow the president around.
Well, like I said, this is where Superman first shows up because Lois Lane's getting in a helicopter. The helicopter gets caught up, topples over off the top of the building. Superman does his famous go into the phone booth, spin around, get changed, stick his
Actually,
hair
that's the
back,
phone
no
booth. He did
glasses.
it. He did it through the door this time.
But
This
he
was
was
the
looking at the
spinning up.
phone booth.
Yeah, he
He was
did. He
looking
did
at the
look at
phone
it.
booth.
He did.
And so, and then he takes off. He goes and Lois is falling. He saves her, grabs the chopper, takes them both up, drops it off. And now the tables have been turned at this point because now instead of Clark, looking all doughy eyed at her, she was looking at Superman like, all
Yes.
right,
Yes. That's a weird love triangle, ain't it? Clark wants
it was
Lois.
interesting.
Lois wants Superman.
But he uses it to his advantage.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
right away he does because the second that he's back at the Daily Planet as Clark Kent, he hears everybody talking about it, and her right away saying, "Oh yeah, we should really get like an exclusive with him," and then he leaves her a note right then and there
Mm-hmm.
to meet him and everything. Which that was funny because what was she wearing in that interview? That was like a nightgown, right?
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I thought she was going
But
to
then she
bed.
was that's what I thought. I thought it was like a nightgown, but then she left with Clark to go out
Yeah.
on the town
Yeah.
to go to dinner.
Hey man, in that conversation Lois and Superman were having, that was a little risque. That conversation that they were having, man, because
When she
they
asked him what color are my panties,
yeah, and what do you want to eat? And then what? No, I was like, whoa, what's going on in '78? What's happening here?
they almost turned a PG-13 into a R rating.
Yeah, yeah. Don't give Clark no ideas now.
Oh, Clark had those ideas already.
I don't even, they touched on this on some episode, some Superman show, and I don't remember which one it was, but like I don't like when Superman, if when he gets excited, like wouldn't he just kind of just shoot right through Lois?
Yeah, I mean, there, like you said, no, there are things that actually talk about it. So
Yeah.
he might, I think he would have to calm himself down, or like I said, he might have to get some kryptonite involved because
When one of the shows when Lois gets pregnant, they have to leave Earth for her to have the baby because if the
that
baby would
makes
have
sense.
came, yeah, if the baby would have came out on Earth, it would have just destroyed her. So they had to leave, and I think they ended up going to wherever this Krypton place is, where the people of Krypton are living, and she went
Yeah,
there and
new
had the kid.
Krypton or something.
Yeah. All right, man, keep going.
So yeah, like I said, the interview was kind of funny because I mean, she starts off asking simple questions like, "What's his height and how much does he weigh?" Then she starts going like, "Do you have a girlfriend and how old are you?"
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, she was getting hot and bothered. That's what shit was happening.
Definitely,
She
and
was getting she was getting super moist.
no, well, I was gonna say that, but you beat me to it. Go for it. The funny thing was when she asked him what color are my panties, and then he couldn't see right away. I thought she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, did I make you blush?" And then he's like, "Oh, now I'm making you blush," because I thought she forgot, maybe she like wasn't wearing any or something. But then I was like, that's why he stopped for. That's what I thought. When he didn't say nothing right away, I was like, "Uh-oh, was he like, excuse me?" But nah, he couldn't see. Did they say lead plants?
He said he can't see through lead, but I was wondering like what's lead because she's standing behind the plant, so
He
I don't
said
know,
these
but
plants must be lead or something. But the stupid thing about that interview is he gave all his weaknesses away,
yeah, he did. Yeah, he
except for the
did.
one he didn't know about,
Yeah,
which was kryptonite. That's
right.
the only one. But literally, his first encounter with Lex Luthor knows everything about him except for, like I said, and then he goes one above and beyond to figure out that the kryptonite could
Yeah,
affect them.
that was whack, man. I didn't like that. Like how would you know? Why would those fragments come? Why like I just I didn't like that. Like that I didn't like that writing.
Well, I think it was a little lazy.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they knew like that. That's not good writing at that time in '78. I don't think they understood that. I don't think the audience was even as mature mentally now because we've been exposed to so much over the years, so much great writing when it comes to movies and TV shows and books and comics. So our way of thinking now is different from people who watched this movie back then.
And I think it would have been better if, like, maybe you wait till the second movie to introduce the kryptonite,
Yeah.
and while in prison, Lex Luthor is um doing research to figure out more about Krypton and Superman and figure it out, and then be like, "Oh, okay," and I think I know where to get it. But he was just kind of like, "Oh, guess what? It's his planet. It'll
I would
affect them." Blah.
I would have been. I think it would have just made sense if it was something here on Earth that gave him that weakness. Like it didn't necessarily have to be from Krypton because he's still under the yellow sun, even though the kryptonite is here. Like it shouldn't bother him. But if it was
Yeah.
just something just already here that's Earth made, like people have allergies, so certain things affect you, and you're allergic to certain things. So it could have just been something here on Earth that this one thing, this kryptonite, weakens me. They don't have to. You don't have to think hard. You know.
He takes her flying, and the only problem I have with the flying is if he's holding her, that's fine. But how is she flying with him and he's just holding her hand?
I didn't understand. I didn't understand that either, man. Because she should have. He should have been flying, and she should have been dangling by his arm.
That's what I was thinking.
It should have been like him flying home with his groceries. You know.
Right? But I think they
I'm
were
gonna
just
tear this
trying
up
to
later.
give a.
I'm tear this
They
food
were
up
just
later.
trying to have a moment, so I get
Right.
it. But it was still a little crazy. But and then that all happens, and like I said, Clark just pops up. It's like we had a date set. She was all hot and bothered. She
Right.
honestly, Clark probably could have said the right thing, and she probably would have jumped him
Well, he
just
got
because she
ready
was
to.
getting all hot for Superman.
He got ready to. Remember, like she went to the bathroom or went to her room or something, and he took his glasses off, and he was. I'm like, dude, you just met this
Oh
girl.
yeah, he was just about to tell her.
Yeah, I was like, you just met her. Like, why would you? Why would you do that? That didn't make sense. And then he changed his mind at the last second.
He had a lot of pent up energy, man. He needed to hurry up. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the next part, the next two parts, we got Lex Luthor. So his idea, he's gonna change the coordinates on these two missiles, but
Mm-hmm.
his henchman messes it up the first time. So now he has to stop this this group of military twice just to get this done. I'm sorry. You're lucky that you got away with it the first time. It's not happening a second time.
Yeah, yeah. You would have got shot.
Like I said,
And they
they
they didn't
really
recognize him. He came back twice. They didn't recognize
they,
him.
they really made Lex Luthor kind of a joke in this.
Mm-hmm.
And Lex Luthor is nothing if not. He's definitely not no joke.
No, they wrote him like he was the Joker or the Riddler.
Yeah, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little interesting. Now, who is Lois? Is Lois talking to? She's not talking to the president, is she? Who is she interviewing?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember who she's
I,
interviewing
I
here.
don't know. I don't remember. Like I don't. I just remember her being in. You talking about when she was in the red car? When she was in the car with the guy talking? I don't
Yeah,
know. And I thought I might have missed something. I don't I don't know. Like I don't even know why she was in California.
yeah, I was wondering the same thing of why she. I think it was for some kind of project, but
Yeah, I
at the
missed it.
same time, like you
If you
said,
guys listening, if you guys know, let us know in the comments. Let us know.
um, uh, he's talking. Clark Kent is talking with Perry White, and then a signal goes out that only dogs and Superman can hear, and it's from Lex Luthor, and it's basically saying
How did he figure
his
that out?
plan
How could he figure that out?
because he gave all his superpowers to the interview to Lois.
Yeah, did he say that I can hear what dogs hear? I missed that
No,
part.
he just said he had super hearing.
Okay.
I know. So basically he lures Superman to him with the intent of stopping him, even though he told him his full plan.
Mm-hmm.
But he told him a lie at first. He told him he had a gas bomb or something that was going to hurt a bunch of people. But then he does tell him after he subdues him with the kryptonite. He tells him what his whole plan is, and
Right.
he actually puts the kryptonite around with a chain.
Yeah.
So he just puts it around his neck. But the problem is, one, he's going to blow up California, but on the same time, he's going to blow up New Jersey. So that way, if Superman gets away, he's going to have to make a decision. Does he save California or New Jersey? Because you can't do both. Now, the only reason he gets help from, what's her name? Miss
Miss
Honeywell or something?
Tossmacher. Miss
Miss
Tossmacher.
Tossmacher. Oh, Tessmacher. Yeah.
Tossmacher, yeah.
She's from, I heard she was
New
in one of the
Jersey.
other shows. Yeah. She has her mother in New Jersey. So when she helps Superman get the kryptonite off, she makes him promise to go to Jersey first to save her mom before California. Now, I don't know if at the time he knew Lois was in California.
I don't think he didn't. He didn't know. He heard her or something
Yeah.
because he stops and looks around and then just takes off.
But since he one of his other things that he puts in the interview is he doesn't lie. So when he tells Miss Tessmacher he's gonna take care of Jersey first, he does. But then he doesn't get back in time and California gets destroyed, and Lois and Jimmy are there, so they end up dying. Now, I always thought this part was crazy, but it was
Stupid.
interesting.
It was
Well,
stupid. It was stupid.
the problem is you get a lot of problems because my biggest problem is so he lets out a big yell
Well, the myth
and
is California, and it causes an earthquake, like Lex said was going to
yeah,
happen, and it
yes.
starts swallowing up things, and he goes underground and he fixes the earthquake from happening. But at the same time, Lois gets trapped and falls into the earth, and a bunch of rocks are falling on her, and she dies. Now,
So his way of fixing it is he rotates the earth and basically changes time to
yeah,
make it so it
pulls it
doesn't
back.
happen. But the problem is, so here's why I had a problem. Did he go back far enough to where before Lex set off the missiles? Or
That's
was this
that I don't know. That see once again, like that's the part of why I said it's stupid because okay, well this earthquake is still going to happen. So he needs to pick her up and carry her, or else her car is just going to go right back in the ground. Like
okay? But my problem is okay. So now he's back in California, and he chose to save Lois and Jimmy. But does that mean Jersey was still destroyed?
no, because he's in Jersey. Like so now he goes back in time. So now there's two Supermen. There's one in Jersey. You
Oh,
see what I'm saying? And then
oh, got you.
there's
I didn't
one
catch
here
that.
now. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't
And
know,
then
man.
when they catch up with you, when it
I don't
catches
think they
up,
are going
they're
to catch.
just one of them.
No, it's not going to catch up because Lois doesn't die. So he's not going to rotate the Earth. It's this is part of the movie that I didn't like. It was stupid. I was like, okay, so now she doesn't die. So
Well,
now he does not rotate the Earth
you create a time paradox,
or whatever. If we want to use the Back to the Future analogy, yeah, exactly.
or you created a second timeline.
Yeah, exactly. But the earthquake should still happen. The ground should still open up because all he did was just pull back time. So
Huh.
now it's going back forward. You saved her. You better hold her in the air while that car goes underground because it's going to happen. The ground is still going to open up. See this is
No.
the part that was always confusing to me.
I'm gonna tell you right now. If he don't get those pink panties after that, I just don't know what else my man can do.
Well, we he's going to get him in the next movie.
I know. I'm just saying. You know, I gotta say something stupid.
But he
That's what
has
I
to do.
do.
But he has to do something first in order to get it. But we'll get into that next week as far as what he
Yeah, I
does.
know. So
But the
the
ending.
funnier thing is
Mhm.
Jimmy comes back because he just kind of saves Jimmy and leaves, hurries up. Jimmy comes back and be like, "You just left me. What the hell?"
And the car's not going to work now, right? The car stopped working.
Yeah,
So he left both of them. How are they going to get back? Weren't they in the desert?
I don't know. It's not like they have an Uber.
And he just kind of flies off and goes gets Lex.
Yep, he takes
Yeah,
Lex and
Otis.
the other guy to the prison and turns them in. And yeah, basically where we're at.
Yeah, the ending. That's the ending. He just flies
That's
away
the
in
ending.
space. And weird ending. And like I said, that ending would not fly nowadays. But
No,
for that time,
not
for
at all.
'78, it's okay for that time. So
Well, Lex is basically, but that's the funny thing is Lex has hair the whole movie until the end. He takes it off and it was a wig.
yeah,
That's what
Blake.
led me to believe.
Mhm.
That's what led me to believe that maybe that's why he was hiding underground because maybe he
Well,
had outstanding warrants or something.
well, you missed. I don't think you were paying attention early in the movie. We saw the wigs early in the movie. Did you see them? So
Oh yeah, you're right.
yeah, so we they let us know that. But I guess if you not if I guess you might have assumed, not you, but anyone watching, that it might have been Miss Tessmacher's wigs. Because you really, if
Yeah,
you didn't know Lex Luthor, you would have said that he has hair the whole time, even though he was changing wigs throughout the movie. If you were paying
I
attention,
just now I'm gonna have to go back. I didn't pay attention to that.
yeah, his hair was changing throughout the movie.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's funny.
Yeah, so they
So
they
yeah,
just did, they just didn't highlight it.
all in all, I liked the movie. I enjoyed it. Like I said, for 78, man, I was shocked. I was honestly shocked. I'm definitely okay giving this movie an A. Like I
Oh
said,
wow,
for
you're nicer than
78.
me.
Oh, I'm fine with it, man. It's Superman, and I don't know about you, but to me, I think Christopher Reeves is the best Superman because he's a good Clark and a good Superman all at the same time, and I always take that into consideration. Can you do both roles pretty well?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I give this movie a C. Like I said, it's just some of the writing that just kind of threw me off a little bit, and it could have been, like I said earlier, like it could have been. I'm just so used to a certain type of writing in superhero movies now, so I'm
Yeah,
giving it a C. But even though it's a C, I still enjoyed the movie because it's Superman. Like you said, it's Superman. We know we're
yeah.
getting. So. All right,
Like
so
I said, I didn't know what to expect for 70. When I saw 78, I was like, oh, this is gonna be weird, but I thought they did a pretty good job, so I'm okay with it.
it's a lot better than our martial arts movies that we watched from 78. Because we
Yeah,
can
you're not
we can
wrong.
we definitely can get some of those strange movies, and definitely not
Yes.
as enjoyable. So next week, Superman 2. That's my favorite one out of all of these first four. We're gonna go ahead and do the first four Superman movies.
You know what's
I
good about
don't
that movie? That
What's
movie
that?
came out 1981, my birth year.
So that's my favorite. That's my favorite Superman movie of these. I don't
Yeah.
really remember number three, so it's gonna be fun to watch that because I was a kid when that came out, and I didn't. They never really showed that in reruns often, and definitely not four. I don't know anything about four. I just remember it was bad. I remember going to the movies to see that, and I just remember I did not like it when I went to go see it at the movies. But I don't really remember that movie, so that's gonna be fun to review also. All right, so next week we're going to do Superman 2. And then also on our other show, Fists, Kicks, and Flicks, we're gonna wrap up Cobra Kai. It's
Yep.
episode 15, right? Episode 15 of Cobra Kai. And
Yep.
we're gonna
And a
do
recap.
the recap of the season six
Probably
and
recap the
recap
whole
of the
series,
series.
man.
Yeah, recap the whole series, man. So that's gonna be a fun show. You got anything else?
Oh man, I'm good. This was fun. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. This is gonna be good. Hopefully we Fist Kiss and Fliss have been going for 5 years, so hopefully we see how long Superflix is gonna go. All right, everyone, stay safe, stay strong, and we will holler at you next week. And I will play our music. That's just gonna be my outro, man.